What happens when a small artist's work is suddenly used as a weapon against her? For Rama Duwaji, the woman who married New York City's new mayor, this became her reality overnight. Her art, her past, and even her haircut were twisted into a political firestorm. But the story truly exploded when details of their high-security, private wedding celebration in Uganda surfaced, creating a stark contrast that began with a single, misunderstood piece of art. Chapter 1. A Shift in Meaning. Before her name was tied to big city politics, Rama Duwaji lived the life of a working artist in New York. Her days were filled with the familiar routine of many illustrators. She had a modest apartment and a laptop that stayed open late into the night. She worked on commissions, attended workshops, and applied for residencies. Behind this everyday effort, she was quietly building a portfolio of art. Her work explored the life of people living away from their homeland. It touched on themes of textiles, women's habits, and memory. Her art had a quiet tone, with muted pastel or warm gray lines. Recurring images included coffee cups, stitched textiles, and two women leaning in to whisper. In a 2019 interview, she described what drove her. She said she focused on making art about her experiences and the things she cared about. She added that the community that formed from conversations about her work happened naturally. She made her work for people who cared about the same things she did. That line reflected a phase of her career where the goal was not to go viral, but to connect with people. One of her early public exhibitions was in December 2023 at the School of Visual Arts Chelsea Gallery in New York. Her digital work was included in the book show. Her work caught the eye of editors and curators but did not dominate online feeds. For years, her art gained modest attention within creative circles. Her work was published in editorial outlets. In a 2019 feature, she noted her belief that everyone has a responsibility to speak out against injustice. She said that art has a powerful ability to spread that message. These words came in a calm moment, part of a profile on emerging Arab diaspora illustrators. They showed her intent, not an attack. She was describing what she could do, not what someone else would say she must be. Then something changed. The first major jolt came after the mayoral victory of Zoran Mamdani in November 2025. Suddenly, her work was being pulled out of its original context. An image she had posted on Instagram on November 10, 2020, resurfaced. It showed two women standing beneath a plume of smoke. The caption read, "Presidents come and go, but American imperialism never changes." When it was first posted, it was just one of many pieces in her portfolio. But after the election, it was reposted widely. It was no longer described as an illustration about diaspora memory. It was presented as proof of ideological intent for the incoming First Lady-designate. Screenshots stripped the original context. Social media posts added new, politically charged tags. Soon after, a second piece reappeared. It was a 2024 illustration of U.S. bills stacked high, labeled Israeli war crimes. After the election, it circulated in forums as evidence of subversion. The content had not changed. The interpretation did. Conservative commentary channels began to discuss her art. Blogs quoted those channels. Tabloids referenced the blogs. Instagram Reels turned the artwork into stylized thumbnails with the word warning in red. No new documents were found, there were just new frames. This moment marked the beginning of a slide. It was not a scandal being exposed. It was a story being repackaged. The art lost its label and became imagery to be judged. Her Instagram feed became reference material. A simple drawing of a woman stitching fabric was reinterpreted as a political statement. The modest apartment and laptop became a studio of influence. The late-night revisions became preparation for power. In retrospect, the before and after contrast could not be sharper. In the before, she was an illustrator with published credits and community workshops, quietly building her career. In the after, she was a political symbol. Her work was recaptioned, her biography reframed, and her art recoded as intent. That shift in meaning was the moment her private archive became public evidence. But it wasn't just her art that was being twisted. Soon, every detail of her life story would be put under the same microscope. Chapter 2. A Past Reframed. When the lens turned toward her, What was once background became foreground. Every childhood move, every studio job, and every quiet drawing session was reinterpreted as evidence for Rama Duwaji. The facts of her past did not change. What changed was the meaning applied to them. She was born on June 30th, 1997, in Houston to Syrian Muslim parents. She moved with her family to Dubai when she was about 9 years old. Her early years in Dubai are noted in her profiles. On websites and forums, the mention of her Gulf childhood became shorthand for oil money privilege, or Arab elite networks. This was despite her own interviews describing that time as late-night sketching in my room, looking out over the city and thinking of home. Her academic path gives more texture to her story. She began at Virginia Commonwealth University's Doha campus. She then transferred to Richmond and graduated with honors in 2019 with a degree in communication design. Later, she earned her Master of Fine Arts in Illustration from the School of Visual Arts in New York in 2024. Her early freelance life followed a typical path for an artist. Soon after college, she produced illustration work for clients like The New Yorker and The Washington Post. She also contributed to features at the BBC and for major tech brands like Apple. Her work circulated quietly in editorial rotations and was shared among design forums. It was discussed in art circles, not flagged in political feeds. But in the post-election glare, these same details were reframed. Her Dubai years were described by online commentators as Gulf money routes. Her residencies and global clients were recast as elite access and international networks. In one online discussion board, a poster wrote something to the effect of, "When an Arab-American artist has residencies and is married to a mayor, it is not art, it is strategic." Meanwhile, friends and colleagues who knew her as quiet and focused watched the chaos unfold. Cultural critics point to a broader dynamic here. Scholars refer to this as digital Orientalism. This is the assumption that Arab or Muslim women in the public eye must have hidden political intent. Their ordinary creative or personal background is recoded as suspicious. The pattern is clear. When an artist's past is publicly visible, it becomes evidence. This is not because there was hidden malice, but because context collapses into accusation. In her case, the past did not change. The audience's viewpoint did. And for Rama, every early sketch, every residency, and every quiet commute to her studio was suddenly under a different light. Her past was now public property, but it was her present that would truly change the scale of the story. Chapter 3. A Marriage and a Bigger Stage. When their two lives came together, the impact was as much symbolic as it was personal. In 2021, Rama Duwaji and Zoran Mamdani matched on the dating app Hinge. At the time, Mamdani was a rising progressive voice in Queen's politics. Their early conversations were not publicized, but profiles note that he asked her about her art and her life in the diaspora. What began there became a story the city could not ignore. Zoran's background is a mix of global cultures. He was born in Kampala, Uganda, in 1991. His mother is the filmmaker Mira Nair, and his father is the scholar Mahmoud Mamdani. His family has Indian roots and migrated through Africa. This gave Zoran a childhood filled with activism, art, and intellectual discussions. His early career included housing advocacy. His platform in the mayoral race focused on issues like housing reform and public transit. This background meant that when he met an artist whose work explored similar themes, it looked like a perfect match. For critics, it looked like proof of a coordinated agenda. Their engagement was announced in October 2024. The civil marriage followed in February 2025 at New York City Hall. It was an understated event. They took the subway from Astoria to Lower Manhattan. She wore a white coat and knee-high boots. He wore a smart but simple jacket. A few months later, in July 2025, they held a family ceremony in Uganda. It was attended by relatives and friends from multiple continents. Across coverage in July 2025, outlets described a 3-day family celebration on Buziga Hill in Kampala. The event took place at the Mamdani family compound overlooking Lake Victoria. Reporting places the festivities at a secluded hilltop estate owned by his parents. The coverage emphasized the scale and setting. It was a private compound with panoramic views and a multi-day program. This phase of the wedding was family-hosted and invitation-only. The security around the Uganda celebration became a story in itself. Multiple outlets, summarizing claims from the New York Post, relayed details of masked guards and multiple checkpoints. They even reported a cell phone jamming system was used to protect guests' privacy. These descriptions were attributed by Indian and other international media to the New York Post. They were not independently verified by major U.S. news outlets. These security visuals sparked an online backlash. Critics used lines like "champagne socialist" to attack the image of a high-security hilltop party for a left-wing politician. The Uganda reception gave detractors a concrete set of images, like gates, guards, and lake views, to contrast with his political platform. Meanwhile, the earlier parts of their wedding timeline were well documented elsewhere. This included the NYC civil wedding at the city clerk's office and the subway ride wedding photos he posted in May. This balanced the private, lavish family celebration with the very low-key civil ceremony in New York. These personal moments became public signals. The shift in her identity was immediate. The artist became the wife of the future mayor. The world made that transformation overnight. Election night became the main stage. The room was filled with anticipation. Duwaji stood next to Mamdani. The fashion press treated her look like a full statement. She wore a square-neck, laser-etched black denim top by Zaid Hijazi, a Palestinian-Jordanian designer based in London. His brand is known for fusing Palestinian heritage with modern design. The piece, called the Frequency Top, came from a collection inspired by Middle Eastern women reclaiming their stories. She paired it with a black skirt by New York label Ulla Johnson and silver earrings by jeweler Eddie Borgo. Fashion media framed this as a deliberate mix. It signaled both her Brooklyn artist life and her solidarity with Palestinians in the same outfit. At the same time, Vogue focused on her hair. It was a dark chocolate crop cut that was quickly dubbed the Rama. It was even compared to the Rachel as the next potential reference haircut. In one night, a campaign party look turned a working illustrator into a fashion reference point. But beneath the applause, right-wing tabloids spun a different story. The same denim top was framed as a political statement. The haircut was analyzed for hidden meanings. The image that Vogue praised as fresh and inclusive was used elsewhere as evidence of a hidden ideology. The change in scale meant every detail became a signal. This marriage was not just about a change of name, it was a change of platform. Duwaji's earlier career existed in its own bubble. Once she entered the orbit of New York City's highest office, her entire body of work was dragged into the public eye. A sketch of women sharing tea became a hidden message. The subway ride to City Hall became a story. The designer credits became clues. The quiet drawings of daily life were suddenly given new labels like global influence and political insider. For some, the story was hopeful. It was about a young immigrant heritage couple rising to power. For others, it was a threat. It was a symbol of foreign networks stepping in. Either way, the stakes were raised. She was no longer just an artist with a laptop. She was a key figure in a public narrative. Her life was now public. But the story being told about her was about to be taken over by a machine that feeds on outrage. Chapter 4. The Narrative Machine. What happened after her name entered the spotlight was less about new facts and more about new frames. Once Rama Duwaji's art, marriage, and biography crossed into public view, the machine of modern outrage kicked into gear. It was not planning a scandal. It was optimizing. One research offers a benchmark for how quickly things can spread. On platforms like TikTok or Twitter, a viral post can gain huge traction in a single day. On YouTube, studies show creators who stir controversy tend to attract higher engagement. This is because algorithms reward videos with faster clicks and longer watch times. The structure is the same. One repost leads to layered tags, which leads to aggregated commentary, which leads to a new thumbnail, and then a ripple effect. On YouTube, the system that generates money subtly rewards controversy. Channels that stir strong viewer reactions get more ads, shares, and subscribers. On TikTok and Instagram, emotionally charged tags boost visibility in the algorithm. Scholars call this context collapse. This is when things created for one audience are remixed and reframed for another. In these online feeds, nuance dies fast, but shock spreads faster. Consider the shift in headlines. An early article might have been titled, "Illustrator Rama Duwaji debuts new work on diaspora life." A few months later, the tone changed to something like, "Mayor's wife creates controversial art." The same information was used, but the implication was completely different. A still image of her art was clipped. The caption was swapped, and it was reposted with new text. The image did not change. The meaning attached to it did. Journalistic outlets like Time, LA, and People ran feature profiles to recenter her as a working illustrator with refugee roots and design credentials. Yet those deeper profiles traveled slower than the short, angry online threads. Scholars argue that once a person becomes a symbol rather than a person, corrections lag and rarely catch up. Who benefits from this? The mechanics reward clicks. Outrage is free content, and attention is revenue. When media outlets package stories about the new mayor's wife, they generate views. Aggregator sites harvest the thumbnails. Media brands pick them up, and commentary channels repurpose them. Every repost and retweet is engagement. The person at the center does not gain anything. She becomes the content. She does not have to do anything new. She just needs to be seen. The emotional cost of this process is immense. An illustrator's work, posted quietly for years, suddenly scrolls past under someone else's caption. The image is the same, but the text is different. A piece about coffee and textiles is relabeled as a political statement. She did not remove her art. It was republished. Her Instagram feed did not vanish. It was recaptioned. Her inbox filled with screenshots of her work that she did not share. Friends messaged her the link a colleague might tag her, asking if she was okay with her work going viral. She could only sit back and watch the notifications, knowing that even a corrective profile piece would not undo the damage. The algorithm does not care about truth. It cares about engagement. In Duwaji's story, the narrative machine did not wait for proof or intention. It needed material. And once it got it, it repurposed, reframed, and recycled it before moving on. The result is that her art remains, but you can no longer see it without the new taglines attached. She did not step into politics. Politics stepped into her feed. Rama Duwaji's story shows how quickly a personal narrative can be hijacked in the digital age. But what do you think is more powerful? The original art or the viral outrage? Let us know in the comments and subscribe for more untold stories.